Cyan now holds a task card given by Sarika. The card displays characters not in the common language, the specific meaning of which is unknown. Cyan silently evaluates while holding the task card. It's my first mission, and it's this difficult? He recalls Sarika's trust in him and grumbles about the difficulty of the task. Walking down the hallway, Cyan expresses his thoughts, as if I'm worried that things are going to just get even harder if she's already bossing me around like this. Suddenly, Cyan's attention is drawn to something. Each step of the hallway is being destroyed by someone. Dust and debris scatter everywhere. Cyan instinctively reacts by covering his face from the dust, silently worrying. What could it be? A demonic beast got into the academy? However, it's not a demon as Cyan predicted, but a huge man with eyes red as a fierce beast. He stares directly at Cyan and speaks to confirm, "You're Cyan Vert." Cyan is startled by the sudden appearance of the tall man and, knowing his identity, asks in astonishment, "How do you know me?" The tall man confirms with a smug smile, "Of course. Magic rank 1 star. Physique rank S, the Vert's youngest son, Cyan Vert." He then maintains his proud smile and introduces himself, "My name is Set Shaharkin. I'm a newbie just like you." Seeing Set also being a new student like him, Cyan falls into suspicion. In his mind, thousands of question marks appear as he silently thinks, "You're telling me this big man is 11 years old? How was there a guy like that in my past life?" Not making Cyan wait, Set immediately flexes his muscles confidently and lets Cyan know, "I've already heard lots about you. You beat up demonic beasts and even survived the dragon attack." Then he grins happily and adds, "Plus, you received rank S for your physique. Even I didn't get an S." Set then suggests to Cyan, "Let's fight now." Facing Set, Cyan recalls memories of him and silently evaluates. "I remember now that mark on his chest. It symbolizes Spania." So the rumor that the Prince of the Sand got into the academy was true after all. Spania is a country in the middle of the desert, situated east of the continent. Because of the powerful military led by the first prince, who was a genius in both magic and combat, even the Ushif Empire had difficulty when they tried to conquer the nation. Spania, a powerful nation with a formidable military, fell to ruins because of the sudden death of its sole successor. The cause of death was ruled as sickness. He had focused too much on growing his muscles and neglected his health. Cyan reflects, "To think I'd come across him here." Meanwhile, Set maintains a fierce expression, demanding Cyan to decide right now. Cyan continues pondering, "I didn't meet him like this in my past life. This is annoying, but if my memory serves me right, he's..." Cyan then raises his head and asks, "Right now?" Set confirms, "Yes, you and I, right now. Let's decide who's the best. I won't accept a no. I'm sure you want to do this too." In response to Set's threats, Cyan shows no fear and retorts, "No." Set, surprised at being rebuffed, exclaims, "How come?" Cyan immediately points in Set's direction and admonishes him, "Unpermitted duels are not allowed in the academy. We have to put in an official request in the administration office." Upon hearing this, Set quickly changes his attitude and yields, asking, "Where is the administration office?" Cyan then points to his right and says, "The 3rd floor of the main building." Set, happy with the direction, promptly runs towards the main hall, reminding Cyan, "I'll be fast. Wait for me." Watching Set's large figure running off, Cyan cynically thinks to himself, another rumor about his brain being made of muscles was true after all. He's going in the opposite direction. I don't know if you can actually request for duels, but I assume I won't see him for a while. I'll focus on the purification project for now. Meanwhile, in the city, specifically at the slave market, a man with a scar over his eye and carrying a sword approaches another man from behind, addressing him as Sir Zickerman. He informs Zickerman, whose full name is Zickerman Albus, that the preparations are complete. Zickerman turns to his subordinate, staring intently at him, and through clenched teeth urges him to stop wasting time and deliver to the customers, one of whom is among the 3 wealthiest people on the continent. Despite his public image as a philanthropist, Zickerman runs a slave market and even sells crossbreeds. Zickerman then commands his men, declaring, "Today will be the appearance of my life's masterpiece. Take special care of it." His men acknowledge his order with a prompt, "Yes, sir." Meanwhile, Cyan observed the situation from nearby, thinking to himself, "Target checked. I'll be able to get this done quicker than I expected." Suddenly, Kiram interrupted, sensing a very complex energy. Puzzled, Cyan asked, "What? What do you mean?" Though Kiram didn't know what it was, she indicated, "Your target, he's hiding something strange." At that moment, near the cages, Zickerman stood laughing maliciously to himself, saying, "You finally calmed down. Sleep well, my money back." Suddenly, a red mist appeared nearby, catching his attention. He turned back, questioning, "Smoke?" However, in the next moment, a red light flashed, passing through him and the others. Immediately, one of his men was killed without any reaction. Overwhelmed by fear, Zickerman instinctively fell to the ground. His remaining guard, panicked, shouted, "Who is it?" Zickerman, trembling in fear, ordered his guard, "What are you doing? Catch him. Do your pay's worth." The guard, though frightened, tried to remain calm, urging the unknown assailant not to hide anymore and to reveal themselves. Cyan followed the man's order, unsheathing the Kiram sword and swiftly advancing toward the man. Just before the man could react, Cyan attacked, causing him to drop his sword. Moving at incredible speed, Cyan made 2 cuts behind the man's knees, causing him to collapse. In the blink of an eye, Cyan appeared behind the man, grabbed him by the hair, and pressed the sword to his neck. The man, shocked and defenseless, attempted to understand what was happening, but Cyan swiftly ended his life by cutting his throat with the sword. Witnessing this, Zickerman Albus was horrified, sweating and staring at Cyan. He angrily demanded, "Where have all the others gone?" Cyan calmly replied, "You'll find out soon. I'll send you to them." He then gestured to the slain guards, commenting, "You sure employed a whole ton of people. Wasn't worth it, really." Trembling with fear at such threats, Zickerman involuntarily recoiled. He tried to ascertain what Cyan wanted. "What do you want? Money? I have all the money in the world." Cyan said nothing, immediately drawing his sword and severing the arm of the man who was begging for mercy. The man cried out in pain as Cyan slowly approached him, still clutching his bleeding stump. Cyan then began reciting the sentence for him. "Zickerman Albus, guilty of all kinds of inhumane experiments and crossbreeding with different races, and even managing the illegal slave market, which is banned by law." Cyan's eyes now filled with anger as he questioned, "Your death is deserved. No giving you 1 minute to repent." Cyan continued, "After that, all your pain will vanish." Zickerman, enraged by Cyan's judgment, clenched his teeth to suppress the pain and argued, "That just means you're going to kill me." Cyan, observing him writhing in agony, muttered, "Yeah, I didn't even think you were going to be remorseful." Then he declared, "1 minute's up. You can just die painfully." Zickerman, terrified, begged for his life, but as he uttered his plea, numerous sword strikes from Cyan's 8th assassination technique, Wild Strike, relentlessly attacked him, causing him to scream in agony, ending his life. After finishing him off, Cyan confirmed, "That's it for purification." He then decided to look around before leaving, heading towards a prison room and asking Kiram, "Over here?" Kiram confirmed, "Yeah, I can feel a combination of 2 different energies." Cyan swiftly cut through the iron bars of the prison room and looked inside, seeing an immobile girl. He exclaimed in surprise, "A girl? Judging by her lack of movement, isn't she dead already?" However, his demeanor quickly changed back to normal as he asked Kiram, "It's just a human, nothing special." But Kiram disagreed, pointing out, "No, look at what she's holding." Kiram confirmed it was a dragon egg. Cyan took the egg and meanwhile, in the academy in his dorm, he carefully placed the dragon egg on a cushion, noting its light purple hue and radiant glow. Brian, seeing the dragon egg before him, couldn't believe it and asked Cyan, "Where did you get this?" Cyan sighed, replying, "I just picked it up off the street on the way here." Brian, even more shocked by his answer, exclaimed, "Who picks something like this off the street?" Cyan, with an unchanged expression, said, "I'm serious. I was just on a walk and found it. as he looked at the dragon egg again. Brian wondered, a dragon egg? Cyan thought, he was going to sell something this dangerous. Was he going to deliver it to someone? Still in panic, Brian worried, what if it hatches? Cyan remained calm, reassuring him, it won't happen, don't worry. He explained that separated dragon eggs might not hatch even with continuous elemental mana infusion, as they were just fancy rocks. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a cracking sound echoed through the room. Brian's ominous prophecy had come true. The dragon egg began to crack open. Cyan and Brian stood frozen in shock, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Moments later, a purple light burst from within the egg, signaling the imminent birth of a dragon hatchling. Cyan could only watch in awe, praying silently as the light intensified and the egg cracked even faster. Finally, the entire shell broke open, revealing an adorable baby dragon. Brian, overwhelmed, grabbed his head and exclaimed, "It hatched, young master. What do we do?" Cyan remained speechless, simply staring at the surreal scene unfolding before him. He looked at the cute baby dragon sitting in front of him, its body emitting a terrifying aura, and thought to himself, this thing is neither a dragon nor a human. So that woman was nurturing a draconic human, a mix between a dragon and a human. This is going to be a much bigger pain in the ass than I expected. At this moment, Cyan could only look at the baby dragon without saying a word. Seeing Cyan staring intently at the baby dragon caught its attention. Immediately after, the baby dragon's eyes sparkled, its mouth slowly opened, and it began to speak for the first time since being born, calling Cyan, Papa. She quickly jumped onto Cyan's lap and affectionately hugged him. Cyan, shocked to hear the baby dragon referring to him as Papa, silently thought, does she think I'm her parent? Kiram couldn't ignore this special scene either. She appeared beside them, witnessing it, and couldn't help but laugh. She pointed at Cyan and chuckled, Papa, congratulations on becoming an 11-year-old dad. Cyan, feeling annoyed and unable to do anything, silently cursed, this is all your fault, Kiram. Recalling past events, Cyan remembered when Kiram brought the dragon egg to him. He asked her, you want me to take this? I believe it'd be bad if the wrong person got a hold of something like this. Cyan agreed, you're right, but it won't hatch, right? Kiram speculated, no, I've never seen a dragon hatch when it's lost its mother. This is basically a dangerous stone. Back to the present, Kiram was still teasing Cyan. Haha, I never thought I'd see something like this happen. After being teased for a while, Cyan, feeling irritated, emanated a frightening dark aura around him and angrily said, didn't you say this could never happen? Kiram attempted to justify herself. That's why I said that. I never thought I'd see this happen. Anyway, a hybrid like her, just her presence alone might pose a threat, Cyan thought to himself. At this moment, the baby dragon was peacefully sleeping in Cyan's arms. However, he didn't share the sentiment of peace. He was deeply concerned about sharing space with such a dangerous creature and silently thought, she's right. This is really bad. The baby dragon, still oblivious to everything, continued to sleep soundly. Cyan contemplated and concluded, it's no normal mix between a human and a beast. It's a freaking dragon and a human mix. The world we live in is too dangerous for a being like that. If the Academy were to find out about this, the principal might harm her to eliminate outside threats. Dragons are very strict about bloodline matters, too. If they were to find out that this child exists, they would try to eliminate every single creature who knows about her existence. Cyan pondered for a while and looked back at the sleeping baby dragon, wondering, do I really need to risk that kind of danger? If she's fated to live a life of pain anyway, wouldn't it be better to just? At this point, his arms slowly moved as if about to do something. Kiram, standing beside him, confirmed, so that's what you're going to do? She also agreed, well, I guess it would be for the better. Cyan's arm gradually reached towards the baby dragon while she was still sleeping peacefully, unaware of anything. Though Kiram didn't say it aloud, she silently thought, yeah, if her fate is to live in misery. Cyan, similarly not wanting to end the life of a baby, silently thought, It'd be better to send her off now. Suddenly, at this moment, the baby dragon slowly opened her eyes. As her gaze met Cyan's, she softly called him, Papa. Meanwhile, Cyan's hand was almost grabbing her neck. However, the baby's next action stunned him. As soon as she woke up, the first thing she did was call him Papa and quickly cuddle into Cyan's arms. She didn't hesitate to say, I like you. In that moment, Cyan felt a strange warmth emanating from the baby dragon. He wondered, what is this emotion? Though not knowing what it was, that warmth melted the icy heart filled only with hatred within Cyan. He then gently lifted the baby dragon up and looked at her adorable face. The baby dragon smiled brightly back at Cyan. Cyan then made a decision and announced to Kiram, I think it'll work out somehow. Let's just raise her, Kiram. Kiram, standing next to him, saw Cyan's happy smile and was speechless, wondering to herself, is he going to make her his servant or something? The scene shifts to Vert Castle, where Lady Krantz's mother was pacing back and forth in the room, constantly thinking, what do I do? What should I do? Her face was filled with panic. Cyan, that bastard. It'll be bad for Krantz if I don't do something about him. Suddenly, Askel appeared right behind her and called out, Mother. Upon hearing that, she startled. Askel, with a handsome face, gently placed his hand on the lady's shoulder and asked, Please talk to me if you're struggling with anything. You seem anxious. Hearing this, the lady blushed and thanked Askel. Then, fearing that information might be leaked, she quickly left. Before leaving, she turned back and said, But I'm okay. I'm not struggling with anything. I have to get going now. Askel also waved goodbye to the lady in a friendly manner. However, the moment the door closed, his true expression revealed itself. He ordered a servant behind him to report everything. The servant reported, 6 of our knights were found dead in the mountains by Velius. We're assuming that the remaining one got into Lewin with the youngest son. The one behind it was Ms. Margaret, as you expected. Hearing this, Askel's eyes became terrifying and he asked, Anything more? The servant continued, The last thing I heard was that the youngest son was put into the royal hall. The informant has been unreachable after that. I already knew all this, Askel said. Suddenly, his voice became menacing. So you weren't able to find out anything about my brother? The servant, terrified, thought, He's disappointed. He never keeps subordinates who disappoint him. I can't give up my position after all the hard work. Then he hastily exclaimed, I'll go there myself. Please believe me, I won't disappoint you. Askel then placed his hand on the servant's shoulder and said, I know how much of a hard worker you are. All right, please be fast. Then he left, ordering further. My brother is definitely hiding something. Find out what it is. The servant remained in the same position and replied, Yes, sir. Returning to the academy, Sarika was hurrying down the hallway. Suddenly, she arrived at Cyan's room and opened the door, witnessing a strange scene. Cyan and Kiram were holding a baby dragon and feeding it milk. Cyan, noticing Sarika's presence, felt awkward and asked, There aren't any classes today. What brings you here? Seeing this scene, Sarika, puzzled, asked, Why is there a baby here? Meanwhile, the baby dragon, behaving like a normal child, chirped excitedly. Upon hearing Sarika's question, Cyan sighed and replied, It's a long story. Just tell me why you're here. Sarika adjusted her glasses, appearing serious, and said, Well, I can hear about this later. There is a more urgent issue at hand. You've caused quite the trouble. Hearing this, Cyan appeared worried, not knowing what it was about. Sarika then produced a sparring approval form, a duel request. What were you thinking? Staying on the down low was the least you could do. Sarika then angrily scolded Cyan, Are you insane? Have you gone crazy for attention? Even the principal is going to be there. Cyan, now noticing the duel request, realized, he really found a way to do this. So he did find the office for it. Kiram, still holding the baby dragon, curiously asked, What's the big deal? It's just a couple of 11-year-olds fighting. Cyan, silently fearful, thought, That 11-year-old is no ordinary 11-year-old. Then he asked Sarika, So when's the duel? Sarika replied, "In 2 hours." When the time for the duel arrived, Cyan was now in the arena, accompanied by Set's madness. Set kept laughing joyfully at the prospect of battling Cyan. Cyan, feeling uncomfortable, thought, "This is way earlier than I thought." Set, with a wicked smile, turned to Cyan and said, "I've been waiting for this moment, Cyan Vert. I'm sure you feel the same way." Cyan, upon hearing this, just made a dismissive sound with a confident expression. Set slowly drew his sword and said, "I wanted a duel of combat, but apparently, the only options here are swordsmanship and magic." He then politely asked Cyan, "Are you going to use magic?" Cyan didn't make it difficult for him and replied, "If you're not going to use it, I won't either." Set, seeing everything had been settled, enthusiastically said, "Good, I like you." Immediately after his words, he disappeared, not literally, but due to his incredible speed. He closed in on Cyan in an instant, his eyes ablaze with bloodlust. Set prepared to strike from behind Cyan with his sword, confidently declaring, "Then let's see how good you are." In such a dangerous situation, Cyan remained calm and thought, "He's pretty fast despite his body size. His sword has a lot of weight in it too." Without hesitation, he prepared to face Set's attack. Cyan drew his own sword to block Set's attack, realizing, but this kind of wavy attack is very easy to deflect. At the same time, as Cyan blocked Set's strike, he did so effortlessly, not directly resisting but using the momentum of Set's sword to deflect it without exerting much force. Set, finding his strike blocked, became perplexed. Cyan then skillfully employed counter techniques while remarking, "For an opponent like him, what you need isn't strength but acuity and preciseness." After Set's continuous attacks proved futile against Cyan's skill, he began to angrily shout, "That won't work." Set then put all his strength into his next strike, but Cyan blocked it. Set, frustrated, gritted his teeth, silently assessing, "He's trying to twist away my attack using the force of his downward strike. Even then, he's using just a rapier." As their blades clashed, Set quickly moved around Cyan, rushing at him from behind and aiming a low blow. Faced with this dangerous attack, Cyan remained composed. Suddenly, Cyan sheathed his sword, anticipating Set's intention to change his attack strategy. Realizing that instead of using his sword, Set was going to kick, the surprise was on Set as Cyan had already deduced this. Cyan quickly lowered himself to evade the kick, then shifted his body weight, using both hands to catch Set's leg. Taking advantage of Set's single-legged stance and the momentum of his kick, Cyan used his own right leg to forcefully kick Set's remaining leg from behind, successfully lifting Set into the air. Cyan then threw Set's body forward in an arc motion. As Set found himself about to kiss the arena floor, he panicked, only managing to think, "Does he have eyes on the back of his head or something?" In the moment when he was about to kiss the ground, Seth suddenly braced his hands against the floor. However, the force of the slam was so strong that the ground cracked from the impact of Seth's hands. He managed to avoid a close call with the ground, sweating profusely. Then, using his hands as a pivot, he spun and kicked, trying to break free from Cyan's grip. Cyan let go of his leg, smiling in amusement and thinking to himself, he managed to counterattack in that short time. He's quite nimble for someone his size. The students watching the match were astounded. One student exclaimed in disbelief, "What was that just now? Is he even human?" Seth sat up panting heavily and then unexpectedly let out a mocking chuckle, followed by a hearty laugh. Despite being overpowered by Cyan, he was incredibly exhilarated. "I lose in swordsmanship, Cyan Vert." But as a battle enthusiast, he was not ready to admit defeat so easily. He stood up, flexing his muscles, and his magical energy surged with an impressive aura. "Now I have to win no matter what it takes. I'm going to give everything I have into this fight." Cyan slung his sword over his shoulder, looking at Seth with a faint smile. "Bring it on, my friend." Cyan seemed indifferent, thinking to himself, "What a tiring dude." Seth stomped his right foot on the arena floor to gain momentum, shattering the ground beneath him. He loudly reminded, "You give it your all too, then." He unleashed his magical power, causing his sleeves to tear apart. The arena floor around him cracked and shattered severely due to the force of his magical energy. He looked at Cyan with eyes shining brightly, laughing maniacally. His magical power raging around him, he shouted, "Cyan Vert!" The principal, watching from above, stroked his beard thoughtfully. Are they going to fight with magic now? What a bunch of bold children. They aren't using both magic and swordsmanship simultaneously. Miss Sarika, sitting next to him, commented, "Seems like Cyan won the sword fight." The principal nodded in agreement. Indeed he did. He thought to himself, Seth Chaharkin's physique rank was A, Cyan Virtus. It's quite an obvious result when you consider just the ranks. However, being fit is only the basic requirement to be able to manifest higher dimensions of spells. Seth is a 3-star Mona rank. That's the highest out of all the enrolled students. What will you do now, Cyan? Sarika, sitting beside the principal, was exuding an ominous aura. As an assassin, she hated being noticed by many people and seemed very displeased that Cyan had joined the fight. She cursed silently in her mind, "Cyan, you're just begging for people to pay attention to you, huh?" Back to the match. A giant sand hand emerged from the arena floor, reinforced with debris to increase its hardness and damage. This was one of Seth's skills, Death Fist. The sand hand was directly controlled by him. Seth stood still, throwing a punch towards Cyan, his body bulging with muscles. Cyan remained motionless, watching Seth move without reacting, just pondering, we're fighting with magic now. The sand fist controlled by Seth slammed into the spot where Cyan was standing, shattering the arena floor and creating a large hole. However, Cyan easily leapt aside, dodging the punch effortlessly. As soon as Cyan's feet touched the ground, Seth launched his next attack to prevent Cyan from evading. Controlling the sand fist, he shouted, "I won't let you escape this one." Despite his words, even after several more punches, Cyan dodged them all easily. Frustrated, Seth concentrated his magical power into his left hand and unleashed his skill, Desert Tooth. This skill caused sand columns to erupt from the arena floor. Cyan, while running, suddenly faced a sand column blocking his way. More sand columns appeared around him, forming a trap. Cyan was quite surprised by this. His expression turned serious as he lowered his stance and looked at Seth, thinking Seth's mana rank was assessed as 3-star. The sand columns aimed at Cyan and struck directly, causing a huge explosion. Sand and debris flew everywhere, severely damaging the arena floor. Although Seth thought this move would trap Cyan, Cyan easily dodged it despite being surrounded. Standing aside, Cyan recalled the technique Seth had used and concluded, but considering this attack, he should be able to use even 4-star magic. The instructors who were maintaining the barrier might be having a hard time. Seth was panting heavily from exhaustion, his mana depleting. Despite repeatedly attacking, he continued to provoke Cyan. "How long do you intend to run around and avoid my attacks like a little rat?" Cyan responded nonchalantly, "Then should I have just taken the attacks head-on?" Seth, angry and gritting his teeth, shouted, "A warrior wouldn't have dodged them, you little kid." Cyan, even more confused, replied, "You're a kid too." Being rebuffed, Seth felt incredibly humiliated and furious. He concentrated his mana into his right arm, streams of mana swirling around it like a storm. Once enough mana was gathered, he unleashed his ultimate move, Sandstorm, aimed directly at Cyan, and shouted, "Shut up, Cyan." The headmaster, observing, was slightly surprised by Seth's mana level and chuckled in amusement. Meanwhile, Miss Sarika was shocked, exclaiming, "Wait, I thought Seth's mana rank was 3-star. That's a 4-star spell." Seth launched a powerful punch, releasing a massive sand vortex towards Cyan. The vortex grew larger as it advanced. Seth, enraged, screamed, "You won't be able to dodge this one." Cyan didn't bother to run or dodge. He stood still, grinned, and said, "All right then, I'll take this one head-on." While Cyan was fighting outside, inside the dormitory, Nanny Brian was preparing milk for the Dragon Princess. He carefully checked the temperature, thinking, "The temperature's perfect. Nice." I'm glad I have experience taking care of a baby. It was kind of annoying when I had to take care of my younger siblings, but I didn't expect it to come in handy like this. After checking the milk, he gently called, "Princess, it's time to eat." But he was immediately shocked. "No way. You already grew up that much?" The dragon baby that hatched the other day had already grown significantly, able to stand and walk. Her hair had also grown longer. She stood there looking bewildered. Back to the match. The spectators couldn't see anything because Seth's sandstorm had obscured the entire arena. Moreover, the storm's destructive power was immense, causing cracks to appear on the barrier's surface. The instructors maintaining the barrier were struggling, as Cyan predicted. Everyone was shouting, "The protective barrier is on the verge of breaking down. Reinforce it." An instructor, pouring all his mana into strengthening the barrier, couldn't help but exclaim, how are just 2 students this strong? What's the dean doing? Can't he see how serious this is?" Miss Sarika, anxious, jumped up and said, "Dean, we need to stop the duel right now." Contrary to everyone's tense reactions, the headmaster calmly replied, "Hold on, wait a bit." With his keen eye as a high-ranking mage, he immediately sensed something happening. Within the sandstorm at that moment, Cyan was using his shadow magic skill called Secret Technique, Expansion Void Sphere. He created a sphere of dark mana in his palm. Miss Sarika began to recognize the technique Cyan was using. She was both surprised and astonished, and in her mind, she didn't want Cyan to reveal this move to the outside world. Cyan's void sphere gradually grew larger, absorbing all of Seth's sandstorm. The dark energy it emitted was incredibly intense, like a black hole devouring everything. As the sandstorm weakened, the headmaster stroked his beard in amusement. "Cyan surprises me again and again in this fight. Haha." However, Sarika felt differently. She wondered inwardly, why would you use that here? The void sphere continued to grow until it had absorbed the entire sandstorm. Finally, Cyan retracted the sphere into his hand. Seth stood to the side, panting heavily and looking bewildered, not understanding what had just happened. "Where did my sandstorm go?" The students watching were equally astonished. The spell suddenly disappeared. Was that black sphere also magic? I've never heard of magic like that. Who is he really? Cyan stood there nonchalantly, dark magic still swirling around him. He casually asked Seth, "Do you want to keep fighting?" Seth was utterly confused. How could he neutralize my skill so easily? How did he do that? Suddenly, Seth collapsed to his knees and admitted, "No, I lost. I can't believe it. I lost in both swordsmanship and magic. I'm depressed." Seeing Seth so disheartened, Cyan felt a bit guilty. "I kind of feel bad. Did I beat him too one-sidedly?" Suddenly, Seth punched the floor and shouted, "Good. Very good. I was tired of fighting weaklings anyway. I'm motivated to train more in the coming days. I don't know when it will be, but let's fight again." He then extended his hand and smiled at Cyan. "You'll accept the challenge then too, right?" Cyan looked Seth straight in the eyes and responded decisively, "No need. Thanks." Returning to the dormitory, Cyan had to carry the little dragon who had grown surprisingly fast. I knew that a dragon's growth spurt is faster than humans, but she looks like she's about 6 years old now. The little dragon now had her hair neatly tied up and was dressed in well-fitting clothes. Seeing Cyan return, she ran happily and called out, "Welcome back, Papa." Cyan was still in a daze, thinking, even a dragon-human hybrid grows this fast. She might look my age soon. Brian scratched his head awkwardly and said, "She keeps growing so fast." Cyan nodded in agreement. It's going to get harder to raise her in secret with how fast she's growing. The demonic sword Kiram was sound asleep, oblivious to everything. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from outside the door. It was Sarika. She stood leaning against the door, adjusting her glasses, and said, "Eventually, you won't be able to hide her anymore. I can help hide the demonic sword, but I can't help you hide a draconic human, especially if you go wild like you did today. What the hell were you thinking?" She frowned, her face tense, teeth grinding in frustration. Thank you all for watching our video today. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to our channel and turning on notifications so you won't miss any future uploads.